What about someone over here? We want to give someone on the right wing, from my perspective, something to say. Who's got something they'd like to raise? And if you can, keep it fairly short. And if you can, let's hear a proposal about what you'd like to do. Come on, go and have a beer if you're embarrassed about it. Yeah, okay, you, sir.
My name's Mike Farmer. The aim of this meeting is to consider the effect of the West Dorset District Council's cabinet style of local government. In planning matters, I feel that the District Council has failed as an effective organ of local government with, at its heart, an essential contradiction whereby uninterested councillors from elsewhere are asked to make vital local decisions. Despite being more or less well served by their local government officers, the results are often a failure because of a lack of any real consultation, ignoring comments from the public, a tendency to go against the advice of their own officers, and a very evident wish to follow the party line despite very strong and numerous objections. Bridport and West Dorset has many unhappy results from these failures. Among others, the ongoing saga of the 3 applications for development of the St Michael's Trading Estate, still unresolved, the granting of unmitigated permission for the Travis Perkins Liddell site, the recent granting of permission for 3 mansions on public open space at Poundbury, the granting of permission to cover Rampersham Down, a site of special scientific interest, with solar panels, despite there being a suitable nearby alternative site, expensive and unnecessary new offices, attempted imposition of on-street parking charges, the list goes on and on. The argument for the suppression of this level of local government is very strong. May I suggest that Dorset moves towards a unitary authority with the county council looking after non-local but county matters, and that planning and local matters should be returned to a beefed up and enlarged town and rural district council. The recent area for the consultation for the neighbourhood plan, including Bridport, Simmonsbury, Walditch and Bradpole, might make a good basis for this. I think that such a scheme would return power and democracy to local people who are, after all, the best experts on their own localities. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. So is there anyone, while we're on the subject of that, the unitary thing, I know there's some other people who would like to speak about, is that, you want to talk about the returning it more to local? Let's pass it to down here.
Hi, my name's Chris Holmes, visitor from Dorchester. Sometimes I write to the newspapers. On Unity for Dorset, I've got 2 points I'd like to make. Number one is value for money. In 2007, Deloitte's predicted the County of Dorset, by going unitary, could save at least £20 million every year. But Dorset missed the boat. If we'd gone unitary in 2009, when several of the other counties opted to, we could have saved at least £100 million by now. More recently, several councils in England have made or are currently making strategic business cases in favour of going unitary, and they anticipate massive savings. When unitary comes back on the national agenda, they'll all be ready to jump, and we won't. So how much could Dorset now save by going unitary? We just don't know. We need an up-to-date professional assessment. So can Dorset have one, please? Well, we asked this question at Dorset County Council last November. The response from its leader, who shall remain nameless, but for the sake of argument, let's call him Robert Gould, was that such an investigation, quote, would not have been a good use of public money, unquote. Professional investigations such as these typically cost about £50,000, a one-off cost. £50,000 is 1/400th of the £20 million we might still be able to save by going unitary. £50,000 could well be recouped in less than 1 day of operating a unitary. Instead of which, The much trumpeted Tri-Council partnership is designed to save about £1 million a year across half the county. Pro rata, that is 1/10 of the 20 million that could be saved for the whole county. You have to wonder whose interests are uppermost here. Apparently not the council taxpayer. My other concern, if I may, is accountability. And that's the real objection, perhaps, to unitary, that the seat of governance, if it's geographically far removed, then local representation and local accountability will necessarily be diminished. I say not necessarily. There is no single model of unitary. So much depends on whether the council is genuinely interested in public participation at a local level. Wiltshire Council, which is a unitary, has 18 local area boards which meet to debate local matters freely, openly and publicly every 2 months. I've attended 3 of these. The public are made to feel genuinely welcome. Their views are actively sought. They can speak and question councillors without having to submit formal questions several days in advance, and they get to see how councillors vote. It's an absolute revelation. Anyone who's attended a council meeting in Dorset will know that it's a world away from what we're used to. I'd call Wiltshire's area board meetings a continuous constructive conversation between the council and its tax-paying public. It looks right, it feels right, and people seem to like it. And there's no reason why we can't have council meetings like that here in Dorset. Thank you.
Well, before you sit down, Chris. Cool. You're getting a big round of applause there. Take a bow, Chris. Look, before you sit down, a couple of things. One is, tell them a bit more about just the facts behind the whole difference between unitary. Chris is a bit of an expert on this, so you don't want to do that?
I wouldn't call myself an expert.
Well, I
by any
would.
means.
I'm just here to embarrass you. So what are the facts? Because I think a lot of people don't know that. I learned them at the last meeting. I knew nothing.
What, the difference between unitary and what we have here?
The numbers of people who you might have in council positions as we have it now and as you'd have it on unitary.
A rough idea, I think at the moment there's something like 250 councillors throughout Dorset. And if unitary were in operation, it would be nearer 100. And
we have a 3-tier thing. I don't understand why we'd have the Dorset Council, the 6 other councils, and then all these other ones.
It's 3-tier in the sense that there's Dorset County Council overarching the lot. There are then district and borough councils, of which I think there are 6 in Dorset. And then there are the local town and parish councils. If we move to unitary, there would be a unitary council, which I suppose would largely supplant Dorset County Council and take on a handful of responsibilities from the current district and borough councils. And the district and borough council would give the rest of their responsibilities the other way to town and parish councils.
And on accountability, one of the things you mentioned was, this opportunity to ask questions and so forth. One of the ideas that came up in Dorchester was the sort of democracy hour. Do they have that in Wiltshire?
Not as such, as far as I know.
Right.
I've only been to the area board meetings. I haven't been to the Wiltshire Council, the Unitary Council headquarters type meeting. I haven't been to that one, just to the local one in Salisbury.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much. Okay, who's next? All right, over here.
My name's Neville Higman. I'm a parish councillor, shortly to leave office. It would be nice to serve at a higher democratic level, but because I'm not a member of or a supporter of a political party, I feel effectively barred from making any progress on that front. I went along to the meeting in Dorchester, keen to find out for myself whether a debate about the reconfiguration of the power at the local level was nevertheless being circumscribed by a continuing assumption that the only hands that will be placed on those levers of power would belong to members of political parties. And I felt that to be the case, not least because certainly in Dorchester, after the people in the audience had a chance to speak, the meeting finished with the political parties speaking, and there was no comeback against what they said. So I thought I'd come along tonight because I wanted the chance to come back something that more than one candidate said, which was, well, if you want to change things, then why don't you stand? Which I'm sure was very earnest, but I think somewhat disingenuous, because I think unless you have the backing of a political party, I think it's very difficult to make your way, certainly at the district council level. We judge candidates not by the content of their character, but by the colour of their rosette. And until we change that behaviour as electors, I don't see any real material change. So I guess my proposal tonight is, if we put things to a show of hands, is if we had a full slate, a clean slate of independents standing in, say, every seat, every ward in the district council elections, would people here tonight be prepared to vote independent, or would they stick with the political parties? It'd be interesting to find out. So.
Well, and we'll certainly ask that. What about, tell us though, you got elected, I assume, so...
I did. Well, most parish councils don't have elections. Most are co-opted, I think about 75%, but the then chair said, look, let's have a contested election, it's important. So she said, stand. And as it happened, there were more people wanting to be parish councillors than there were seats, so there was an election, yes, and I was lucky enough, privileged enough to be elected, yeah.
So you got elected, so you are an ambulatory experience of an independent getting elected. So how would you advise these people to do that?
Well, it would be nice. Look, my view is at the last general election, I think the view of the nation was, and people will tell me if I'm wrong, was none of the above. We didn't actually manage to elect a government. And I guess that might well happen again this time, not least because I think the Lib Dems probably attracted a lot of tactical voters, and they may not attract those again this time. So where are those votes going to go? I think there's a lot of loose votes looking for a home. I think when we go into the ballot box in May this year, there's going to be a MP on one ballot paper, and people will vote, whichever political party. But is there an opportunity at the district council ballot paper, if an independent appeared, is the independent the none of the above alternative? Should we look for individuals? And a district council ward is small enough to find, a community leader, a youth leader, or someone who is respected in their community, and say, well, I'm going to stand, and my first obligation is to the people in the community, not to a political party. Can I have your vote? I would certainly go out on the stump and knock on doors and say, please vote independent for someone who's from our community, lives in our community. That would help if all candidates actually lived in their ward, and see what would happen. But there might be no appetite. People might say, no, we'll carry on voting for the political party. I'd quite like to say, should local government still be dominated by national politics, by the Westminster parties, or should it be about local people choosing local people to represent local interests?
And why aren't, if I may ask, why aren't you standing as an independent this time?
Well, Alistair Chisholm, bless him, he's exhausted after 4 years of trying to make himself heard. I think there's no point having one or two independents. I think it has to be a full slate to give everyone in West Dorset an opportunity to try something different. Is there an appetite or not? Do people want to come out after tonight's meeting, go out and say, yes, I'll stand in my ward. Oh, I know someone in my ward. I'm going to go and talk to them and put someone up and see. We've got 7 weeks until nominations close. Is that long enough with the power of social media to say, let's get organised, let's put someone up in every seat? You said at the start, don't just come up with ideas, what are you prepared to go and do? So if I'm joined by however many seats, 35, 40,
Then you're standing in. Good, we'll come back, Neville, and we'll get you your gang at the end, although it sounds horrifyingly like a party to me.
No, please, no, not a political party. I think
right,
once you join a political party, you serve the political party rather than your community.
I agree. It's just a different sort of party. I meant the sort of party we hold here in the electric palace.
Fantastic.
Now, okay, someone in the middle.